Hello, everyone. I want to start by apologizing for the upload of episode 4. I'm by no means a professional when it comes to recording this stuff. Um, what we are trying to do with this YouTube series on our channel is just to highlight some of the third party content that is out there, uh, bring to light, you know, some of the stuff that we find enjoyable about Cobalt Press. And I am by no means an expert when it comes to being a DM, but also being a YouTuber. Just to be completely honest, we have utilized OBS Streaming Labs. And prior to running this campaign, we did record 10 episodes of our Call of the Netherdeep campaign, just to try and work out all the bugs and everything. And I think in episode 2 of our campaign, there was an update to OBS. And week by week, there has just been a little snafu every time I start it up. We are trying real hard just to provide some insight into the extra material that's available. So I do think those of you who have pointed out the technical issues, we do very much appreciate the fact that people are doing that, and we are trying to improve and do better. To make up for the lost episode, the group and I have put together a slideshow recap. Most of us in the party play around with Midjourney, so we took the time to create some artwork for this recap of the latest episode. So again, I do apologize for that. Last week we had some scheduled time off, so there was no upload. If people like this format, this is now that we've locked in some of our base prompts and everything, this is something that we could recreate. And we are thinking about going back and recreating some recap episodes for the first part so that people maybe don't have to watch the full videos. And if it is something that you do enjoy, even more so than sitting down and watching a 4-hour stream or 3-hour stream or whatever they end up being, please let us know. Like I said, we're just trying to show off the module. We have no aspirations of YouTube fame. It's really just putting this out there for people to experience, see what Cobalt Press has to offer, and then just enjoy the general shenanigans that our group has shared over the last couple of years. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do a slight recap of, put together a recap for this. So thank you all for being understanding. So here we go. When last we left our group of adventurers, after setting out from the capital city of Zobek, our party found themselves beginning a 2-day journey to the small village of Redtower. As the closest settlement to the Scarlet Citadel, this small logging town of Redtower is the obvious base camp for adventurers looking to venture in to the Scarlet Citadel. The trip to Redtower was not without its own sets of perils. The party set out, uneventful travel along the first day, but as they made camp for the evening, they saw a shadowy figure stumbling toward them in the dusk. A young man made their way into camp, only to fall unconscious at their feet. All attempts to revive him proved futile. The party did their best to look after him, but after a few hours he sprung, suddenly awake, in a daze, muttering about fields of purple flowers. Not one to waste time, Kronch Goldenthorn noticed the young man covered in pollen, and he bravely or foolishly decided to investigate this substance further by licking it. The effects of this pollen immediately took hold, and he fell unconscious. By disturbing the pollen, its scent attracted the attention of 3 nearby giant centipedes, who, when they sprung from the tall grasses surrounding their campsite, immediately fell upon Kronch Goldenthorn, attacking him, trying to disembowel him. His allies, along with the young man, were able to fend them off, but not before he suffered serious, although not fatal, wounds. While tending to Kronch, the party spoke with this young man to learn his name was Timon. He was on his way to Zobek when he stumbled through these flowers. In an effort to repay their kindness, he agreed to help tend to Kronch throughout the evening and also fix their Zadok's traveling companion, the cart, who he has affectionately named Woody Duck. At sunrise, with wounds healed and the cart fixed, the party continued on their way to the village of Redtower. As they made their way through the countryside, a small village began to appear in the distance. Its most notable feature, jutting from the horizon, was a guard tower made of crimson bricks, for which the town was aptly named. As they approached, with the sun setting, Alosha Orsini inquired if the party had any knowledge of this village which they had come upon. Urson Goreclaw, dancing bear guide, hired to bring Kronch Goldenthorn upon his journey to the Scarlet Citadel. Research looked through his notes and advised that he knew of a place in the town for which the party could not only gain information, but also seek lodging. It was a place of great renown. He spoke of the Cage Tavern and Inn. The Cage Tavern and Inn was the most visibly opposing structure, other than the Redtower, by virtue of its unique construction. A row of curved bones, much like some massive ribcage, protruded from the ground in a corridor to the town's southern-facing wall and side entrance. The last few ribs are incorporated into the inn's construction, acting as support rafters on the inside of the building. The rest of the cage's construction is eclectic, with the older parts of the inn, the space immediately connected to the enormous rib cage, the wood and stone construction typical of the region, but with newer elements showing more distant touches, such as iron gates from Zobek, a dwarven-style hearth, and Paranulian motifs, columns, and so forth. Following Urson's lead into the Cage Tavern Inn, the townsfolk there, mostly human, were taken back immediately by this collection of unique individuals entering their normally quiet tavern. The Cage was a lively little tavern that night, filled with a mostly human crowd, the single dwarf and halfling reflecting the general population of this small logging town. They noticed 2 individuals behind the bar. A man and woman were tending to the needs of the patron from behind the bar, taking turns running food and drinks and other orders to various different tables. Brother and sister Ariadna and Ambrosi Gorsky were owners of this establishment, and they had the look of folks who could more than handle themselves in a pinch. Unlike the patrons of the bar, they were not taken back by the party. In fact, seemed excited to see adventurers making their way into this establishment. After being offered a menu, Urson Goreclaw was first to order and decided to try a mead from the local brewery, the Sweet Sap Brewery. Kronch Goldenthorn had a more peculiar and specific request for Ambrosi. Kronch requested the finest fairy wine available. Ambrosi, thinking he checked 2 of the 3 boxes, served him a house wine, assuming that would be suffice, and proceeded to tend to the rest of the party's needs. Elosha had taken off to make sure the horses and, of course, Woody Doug were taken care of, but she quickly entered in while Zadok simply ordered water. Looking at this wine, as he would like to call it, Kronch was taken back by this man's seeming incompetence. How could this man have possibly misunderstood his request for the finest fairy wine in the land, and, to show his displeasure, turned his glass upside down, trapping the liquid inside, so that when Ambrosi picked it up, the wine would spill throughout the bar. Urson beckoned his compatriot back, and they all joined at the table while food was brought to them. As this was their first real comforts in the past few days, the party sat to plan for a moment with their excursion into the Scarlet Citadel. Elosha took the time to speak with Arianda, secure lodging for the night before returning to the table, and also she felt that this was a good time to try and gain a little understanding of their eclectic travel mate, who they had rescued from the kobolds back in Zobak. She had some questions for Zadok. Who was this grandmother that he spoke with? Why did he have such an affinity to speak with inanimate objects? Zadok, in his quirky manners, explained that he was looking for grandmother. Grandmother was everywhere. Perplexed by this answer, she turned to her traveling companions. Kronch was still going on about how the bartenders could have served him such swill, and how Mumsy and Daddy would hear of this. Urson Goreclaw pondered for a moment. He recalled stories of his childhood in Bjornheim, of a being known as Baba Yaga. And as Urson Goreclaw rolled a natural 20 on his history check, he was able to get the full history of grandmother Baba Yaga. The stars keep her secrets, the stone her memory. Grandmother, grandmother, her kindness akin to treachery. Baba Yaga is a renowned witch and appears as a stooped old woman with an impossibly long nose and wild white hair. Her milky yellow eyes stare, unblinking at no fixed spot. She has no teeth, instead wearing a set of sentient, magical iron dentures. Her teeth are often off pursuing their own agenda, and the two bicker constantly. She wears frayed burlap robes, and occasionally a black silk scarf over her escaping locks. Her skin has a bark-like quality, and she smells of lightning and pine. While perfectly able to walk, the witch is often seen flying about the world in her enormous mortal and pestle, the latter of which she uses as a rudder in flight. Collector of secrets, few planes or places are free from Baba Yaga's madness and meddling. She desires knowledge above all things and greatly enjoys knowing the secrets of others. Many kings and queens have been extorted by the old witch, who records their secrets on parchment stored in a chest made from a giant emerald. She has a weakness for enchanted baubles, and her home, a wooden hut that travels on huge chicken legs, and whose interior defies natural law, is stuffed full of magical bric-a-brac. Nightmare and nurturer. Those who have bargained with Baba Yaga successfully claim that she is a fair and honest person with a fondness for animals and wild things. She seeks strong adventurers to pursue dangerous quests for her, usually to acquire either a great secret or powerful artifact. However, she is also a pitiless murderer who slips through the shadows in the moonlight to feed on sleeping innocents with her wretched iron teeth. She holds grudges and does not forget the smallest slight. She's the master of many. She collects servants as she does things, and takes great pleasure in adding to her soul hoard. The three horsemen draw their power from her and do her bidding. At various times she has held the soul of Koshé and forced him to perform legendary feats on her behalf. The old witch is known to appear in several places at once. Some scholars believe Baba Yaga is actually three identical sisters, each with their own personality. While Urson has captivated the bar, retelling his tale of Baba Yaga from his childhood, patrons have gathered around, and Arianda and Ambrosi have stopped as well, as the whole bar has gathered around the table. Although none have noticed, Zadok has slipped off and ventured behind the bar, seemingly to gather forth a dirty mop bucket of water, and has placed it on the bar. He has scooped the water from this and has seemed drinking from it. Arianda caught this out of the corner of her eye and quickly ran over to scold him. Not in a mean way, but in a, "Darling, why are you doing this?" With Ambrosi quickly joining behind as they see him drinking from this dirty mop bucket. He assured them in cryptic words that he was fine, and they offered him some fresh bread and water to cleanse his palate. Throughout the course of the evening, the party spoke with various townfolk, listening to strange tales of owl bears in the forest and the history of them. One in particular juicy piece of gossip they heard there is a woman who lives on the outskirts of town who sells all forms of potions and salves. Folks in town stay away from her, though. She is rumored to be a witch, but they do not go near her, as her property is littered with all forms of dead animals left to rot and decay on her porch and lawn. As the night progressed, townfolk come and went, and with the evening coming to a close, the party finished their dinner and was about to call the night, when the doors of the tavern swung open. It's up for debate whether it was a gust of wind or the collective sigh of all inside, but in stumbled the mayor of Redtower, Wislaw Braz. Already between 3 and 5 sheets to the wind, he drunkenly stumbled over to the table and in a drunken declamation announced to the party that they are welcome in Redtower. This is the perfect place to launch an adventure into the Scarlet Citadel, and that should they need anything, they have the Wislaw discount. His first round is on me. And then he sheepishly leans in, but it's really on the townsfolk, and proceeded to stroll up to the bar. As he ordered rounds of drinks, he fumbled for his coin purse, but in his drunken stupor did not realize that Kronch Goldenthorn had lifted it from his person. While Kronch is normally a sort of self-absorbed person, he did not like the fact that this man was pilfering off the backs of his townfolk. Seeing this scene play out one too many times, where the mayor had forgotten his money and promised to pay in the morning, Ambrosi offered to escort him back to town, while Arianda escorted the party to their rooms. They each took their appropriate beds, while Kronch buried himself out in the ground as he chooses to sleep underground. As morning awoke, the aromatic smell of bacon, eggs, and coffee filled their noses, and they joined for breakfast before heading off to the stables to check on their equine companions and, of course, Woody Doug. As they arrived to the stable, they saw 2 of their 3 horses, Ash and Cinnamon, calmly in their stalls, eating oats and hay, being brushed by 2 of the local stable boys, while a third young man looked flummoxed, as the skinnier horse Buttercup was giving him quite the amount of guff, refusing to eat her oats and hay. Kronch Goldenthorn kindly introduced himself to this young man, Vernon, and explained that Princess Buttercup would not eat such filth, and only deserves to be fed the finest burnt bugs or meat. Kronch patiently explained to Vernon that if should anything happen to Princess Buttercup, that it would be, as he put it, the end of him, offered him 5 gold to make sure that she was fed the finest of smoked meats, and this young man promised to kill and cook every rat in the town to make sure that this beautiful princess horse was fed. He also affixed Ash and Cinnamon to Woody Doug and prepared the party as they had determined now was the best time to head towards the Scarlet Citadel. After a brief travel with Cinnamon, Ash, and Woody Doug, the party arrived to the ruins of the Scarlet Citadel, a structure that stood atop a low hill that sloped gradually off all around. The slope is gentle, but the ground is rugged, broken by ravines, boulders, and tangled bush and fallen trees. When the keep was in use, the grounds must have been cleared for several hundred yards in every direction, but since the fall, trees and brush had regrown right up to the fortress walls. The fort was breached at the northwest and southeast corners, but the rest of the walls remain intact. The outer walls were 15 feet tall, the main tower 40 feet tall, and the secondary keep was 30 feet tall but heavily damaged. Despite the damage and decay, it is easy to see why it was named the Scarlet Citadel. The red stone bricks used in its construction stand out starkly against the greenery. No one comes here anymore except a few hopeful adventurers, like this party. So the old road from the town is no more than a weed-choked track. After scouting the area, they discovered several large feathers almost 2 feet in length. The party decided it was probably best to construct a covering for their horses and wagons. They spent a good part of an hour or 2 gathering supplies, these feathers, logs, trees, to make some form of covering to hide both Ash and Cinnamon and, of course, Woody Doug. But their presence in this forest did not go unnoticed. Charging from the brush emerged a huge owlbear. Its massive hulking body dwarfing even Urson's with a jagged beak. They recall this area had been rumored to be home to owlbears. They recall hearing mutterings in the bars from centuries ago that the founders of Redtower, the Holzingers, had attempted to breed owlbears into captivity with little success. Some even say experiments were performed on them in an attempt to make these beasts docile or even more deadly. As the owlbear raced towards the party, Elosha began carving arcane symbols in the air, and portals opened right in front of the charging owlbear, causing it to stumble momentarily. Urson Goreclaw pounded his chest and raced towards as Kronch began muttering different insults, and musical notes filled the air. Zadok began speaking in an unknown language as cold tendrils raced from his fingers as they all hurled various forms of magic at it. As the owlbear raced to its feet, locking in combat with Urson, biting and snatching, it was unable to grab. Urson sunk his teeth deep into the owlbear's shoulder. Elosha ran forward, her wrist blade sunk deep into the other shoulder of the owlbear as it gnashed at her, slashing her arm. Zadok pulled forth from his inner being's dark blue necromantic energy, unleashing magic towards it as Kronch Goldenthorn assaulted the being's mind. At the end of the day, the party was victorious. With the heat of the battle over, oh, slide back one, oop, go back, sorry. Oh, I did so good. One slide too little. Sorry, as the heat of the battle was over, go back to the Scarlet Citadel. With the heat of the battle over, and everyone collecting and tending to their wounds, Zadok attempted to harvest the remains of this owl bear that they had felled. He's not a man of the land, but the one thing he realized was that these feathers did not match the ones that they had previously found. And that's where we'll pick it up. I do hope that this can stand in place of what we had tried to do prior. Again, I do apologize for that. If you like what we're doing, please check us out. The music in that playthrough was also one of the works of our players. That is Kronch Goldenthorn. He is a quite accomplished artist, both visually and musically. You can check out his work, his physical art and digital art at silasplum.com. And you can also find him on Spotify at John Americus Witt. That is John. Americus is AMERICUS WITT. We try and offer a little unique perspective here. Again, sharing the fun of our party. Again, I sincerely apologize for the lack of recording. We are trying. We will do better. We appreciate everyone who's sticking around with us, and thank you very much. We have another episode that will be dropping on March 15th. I will thoroughly test every single bit of the recording process beforehand to ensure that there are no more snafus. Thank you again for your time, for your patience, for your feedback. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, everybody, and we hope to see you soon.